starts right now.
The Russia investigation heats up. President Trump does too. As special counsel Robert Mueller digs into Trump's finances, the president lashes out. His White House cries foul.
He doesn't want the special counsel to move beyond the scope and outside of its mission.
Will Trump try to fire Mueller, pardon his friends, family, even himself? Tough questions ahead for Trump lawyer Jay Sekulow. Plus, smiling on the outside, seething on the inside, Sean Spicer exits the White House.
What are you trying to accomplish with your staff shakeup?
Make America great again.
The press secretary quits after President Trump makes his finance friend Anthony Scaramucci communications director, promotes Sarah Sanders to press secretary. She's here for her first Sunday interview of This Week exclusive. And what about the Democrats? Everyone knows they don't like Trump, but are they offering an agenda for all of you?
We're not going to stand idly by and shrug our shoulders when American people are suffering.
Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer says he has answers. What's gone wrong, what Democrats need to get right? We'll press him on This Week. And the reporter whose interview with President Trump rocked Washington this week, Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, joins our Powerhouse Roundtable. Everything you need to know. We'll break down the politics, smoke out the spin, the facts that matter this week.
From ABC News, it's This Week. Here now, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
Good morning. 6 months ago this week, President Trump took the oath of office, vowing to make America great again. He promised a border wall paid for by Mexico, the end of Obamacare, tax cuts for everyone. He claims to have signed more bills at this point than any president ever. That is not true. And those 3 signature promises unkept, unclear if they ever will. His approval rating is the lowest of any president ever at this point, though Trump has kept a strong hold on his core voters. And he can take comfort in a strong economy with low unemployment, the stock market at record highs. One big promise the president surely has made good on, the promise to shake up Washington. The question now, can his presidency survive the aftershocks? As the Russia investigations by Congress and the special counsel intensified this week, the president responded as he did when faced with crises in his private life, by hunkering down, lashing out, shaking up his team, attacking his investigators. Trump is braced for battle, a battle unlike any he's ever seen before. Safe to say our country's never seen anything quite like it either. And it's just beginning. We begin this morning with the president's team, Attorney Jay Sekulow, brand new press secretary Sarah Sanders. And Mr. Sekulow, let me start with you, and thank you for joining us this morning. I want to start by putting up this tweet that President Trump sent out yesterday morning. He said, while all agree that the U.S. president has the complete power to pardon, why think of it when the only crime so far is leaks against us, fake news? I wonder if you can explain what the president means by that complete power to pardon. Does he believe he has the right to pardon himself?
Well, the president in that tweet stated something that's rather unremarkable, and that is that under the Constitution, under Article 2, Section 2, the president has the authority to pardon. But I want to be clear on this, George. We have not and continue to not have conversations with the president of the United States regarding pardons. Pardons have not been discussed, and pardons are not on the table. With regard to the issue of a president pardoning himself, there's a big academic discussion going on right now, an academic debate. You've got Professor Tribe arguing one point, you got Professor Turley arguing another point, and while it makes for interesting academic discussions, let me tell you what the legal team is not doing. We're not researching the issue because the issue of pardons is not on the table. There's nothing to pardon from. As
you know, the Washington Post reported that you were discussing it this week, that the president even asked about it. I take it you're denying that article, but I want to put up a judgment from the Office of Legal Counsel back in 1974 under Richard Nixon. They said under the fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case, the president cannot pardon himself. You're a constitutional lawyer. Do you believe the president can pardon himself?
I don't think that you can, first of all, it's never been adjudicated whether a president could pardon himself because it's not happened. But clearly the Constitution does vest a plenary pardon power within the presidency. Whether it would apply to the president himself, I think ultimately would be a matter for a court to decide if it were to ever come into an existence. As I said, that's not something that we're looking at. But from a constitutional legal perspective, you can't dismiss it one way or the other. I think it's a question that would ultimately, if put in place, would probably have to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court to determine constitutionality. The document itself, we talk about the document, the Constitution, Article 2 is very clear. The president has the power to pardon. But again, there's academics are arguing both sides of this. And as I said, we're not researching it. I haven't researched it because it's not an issue we're concerned with or dealing with.
So you think it's an open question. Let me move on to Special Counsel Mueller. The president complained to the New York Times this week that Robert Mueller has an inherent conflict of interest because he interviewed for the FBI director's job before he was appointed. I want everyone to listen.
The day before, of course, he was up here. Mueller wanted the job. I said, what the hell is this all about? You talk about conflicts. No, he was interviewing for the job.
He went on to say there were many other conflicts that I haven't said, but I will at some point. What did he mean by that? What other conflicts of Robert Mueller does he have in mind?
Well, George, you know, any lawyer that's involved in any kind of matter, one like this, or if a court matter for that, you're always looking at the issue of potential conflicts or conflicts as they arise. If a conflict does arise, what a lawyer does, and you would be no different here, is you raise that conflict with, in this particular case, initially with a special counsel. If it was a serious enough conflict that you felt was not being rectified, you would go to the Deputy Attorney General who appoints the special counsel here, the way it's set up with the recusal of Jeff Sessions. So what the president's talking about is that in due time, if there is in fact a conflict that the legal team deems is significant enough that it needs to be raised, as any lawyer would do, we would raise the conflict with the special counsel.
Mueller has an inherent conflict. He already said that Mueller has a conflict. Has that been raised with the Deputy Attorney General?
Yeah, we've not raised it with the Deputy Attorney General yet. I will tell you this, that the special counsel's situation, which is a bit unique in the way it's structured, it's not an independent counsel, it's a special counsel. You have to be evaluating conflicts as a matter moves forward. Remember, we're not at an investigative stage yet. So I'm not going to start talking about individual and particular conflicts that could exist that would render or put us in a position where we would in fact raise that issue. But I will also tell you that as the lawyers for the president, we're going to be constantly evaluating that situation. And if an investigation were to arise and we thought that the conflict was relevant, we would raise it without question.
The president has already raised it, and he doesn't seem to be on the same page as his lead attorney, John Dowd, who, with an interview with the Wall Street Journal, dismissed the idea that Mueller has conflicts. I want to show that. He said, we all know him, and we're not interested at all in that kind of collateral nonsense, speaking of the conflicts. He's an honest guy, and he's done his good job. I wonder how you reconcile the statements of President Trump and the statements of Mr. Dowd. Does the president agree that Mueller is an honest guy who's done a good job?
Those are not inconsistent statements. What you're talking about, the president was talking about conflicts that exist within the special counsel's office, or that may rise to a level that we have to address them. And remember, not every conflict you have to address, but when they get to certain levels, you do address them.
He was talking about Mr. Mueller's personal conflict.
Yeah, so John Dowd was responding to the fact that we've had an ongoing, professional dialogue with the special counsel's office and haven't yet raised the issues of conflict. But let me say this again to be clear. The president's concerns are concerned as well. If there is, and we're concerned about the conflicts, as conflicts mature, and that's how it works in a proceeding, if a conflict matures and we actually have an investigation, which right now we don't, those conflicts would be raised within the appropriate venue, no question. I don't think what John Dowd said is inconsistent with the president at all.
Well,
John's addressing the legal... George, let me just finish. John Dowd, who's a brilliant criminal defense lawyer here in Washington, John is raising the scenario as it exists with regard to the special counsel's office as he sees something possibly moving forward. What the president's concerned about is apparent conflicts that have already kind of bubbled to the surface. And look, any lawyer that's handling a matter like this would look at those seriously and take the appropriate action. And I'll assure you, and assure the president we're doing it.
Mr. Dowd calls the idea of conflicts collateral nonsense. The president is raising the conflicts. He didn't only raise it about Mr. Mueller. He said that the Deputy Attorney General is conflicted in that New York Times interview. He said that the acting FBI director is conflicted as well. And, he seems to be raising questions about everybody who's involved in this investigation. Are you concerned at all that this is going to bolster the case for obstruction of justice, that the president appears to be questioning everyone involved in this investigation?
No, he has the right to raise concerns. I mean, you got the situation with the acting FBI director whose wife received, I think it was $500,000 or $700,000 from Terry McCullough's PAC while she was running for a Senate seat in Virginia, a state Senate seat in Virginia. I mean, you can't ignore that as an issue. I mean, I think it would be naive by any lawyer to just, glance over that and say, well, that's not a big deal. Those are issues
it was a problem with the Deputy Attorney Generals from Baltimore.
Well, he was concerned about the appointment of the Deputy Attorney General from Baltimore because he's concerned, as he raised it in the article. I mean, this is no secret what you're saying, is that a Democratic state, Democratic appointment here, and does that in and of itself, look, you have to look at a conflict in a totality of circumstances. I've been practicing law for 38 years. In every case I'm involved in, and I've been involved in, as you know, at the Supreme Court of the United States. I've argued cases in international tribunals. I've handled congressional investigations before the House and Senate. Here's what happens. You look at these issues, and you make a determination based on looking at those issues whether it is something that has to be raised within the appropriate venue. So again, what is happening here is the president has recognized some apparent conflicts right off as a non-lawyer, right off just evaluating the situation, and you don't ignore those. I mean, anything like this has to be evaluated, and we'll do that.
I have to say, I don't understand how being from Baltimore, serving in Baltimore, he's not even from Baltimore, he's from Pennsylvania, is a conflict. But I want to bring up one final tweet from the president. This was yesterday as well. He said, so many people are asking, why isn't the AG or special counsel, he didn't spell it correctly there,